السلام عليكم مهندس سيد.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالك باشمهندس؟
الحمد لله رب العالمين.
مبارك
طيب
تمام.
الحمد لله.
الحمد
نحمد الله
لله
تعالى.
دائما بخير يا رب إن شاء الله بإذن الله.
الله
كيف حالك؟
يكرمك. نحمد الله تعالى. ايش رأيكم نبدأ يا شباب؟
توكل على الله.
توكلنا على الله. Hello Ajay. Okay, let's start with the process for QCDD approvals process. As we said last time, there is some stages for the approval, and we are going to check and see what is the process for the approval gradually, one by one, starting from DC1, DC2, uploading the as-built drawings or the shop drawing, and finally, when you are going to make any modification or maintenance modification during operation and the maintenance for the building and renewal for the QCDD certificates. The QCDDs, they have a safety handbook, which is issued in 2006, and it is not updated till now. This is the first one, the first issue for it, 2006, and still from that date, there is no modification for it issued right now from the QCDD. And this is a reference for it. For the submission for the QCD, the approval, the normal process, as we said, it is in general to have DC1 submission for the plans, layout plan for the building in general plans, as an architect, as a life safety plan, including the site access and the master plan, all the municipality PIN numbers, etc. So this is the main submission for the DC1, as life safety plans is the main for the submission. In addition to the layout plans, you have to submit the single line diagram for the main firefighting system, how it will be, the electrical network, how it will be, the medium voltage network, layout plan showing the fire tank, the fire pump, where it will be located, the fire command center, where it will be located, and the access, showing the 2-hour fire rated and 1-hour fire rated, etc. And the other for electrical, like the substation layout plan to be indicated as well. Once you have an approval, you will go for the DC2 stage, and the DC2 stage it will have all the detailed drawings for all the systems. If we are going to talk about our system for the civil defense, it will include all the fire alarm, firefighting, and air condition, mechanical ventilation layout plans, which will indicate the smoke management system. So for the civil defense, they are not care about the HVAC drawings related to the air handling unit sizing and the equipment schedule, etc. No, they are interested for the area for the HVAC, where it is indicated the smoke ventilation system and the cause and the effect plans. Once you have completed the submission, going for the construction stage, you have the as-built drawing or the shop as-built updated from the shop drawing, and the material submittal approval. You submit it and go for QCDD inspection to visit before giving you the completion certificates, and after you will receive the completion certificate from the municipality. Okay. In each stage of the submission, for DC1 or DC2 or site visit, the QCD, they will issue for you number of the comments. The number of the comments, it will be in stages or categories. One of them, it will be general comments, and it is always coming in the two language, Arabic and English, explaining what is exactly the comments in Arabic and English word, and what is the action required to be done to comply with the comments. Following the general comments, it will come for the particular comments, like this one. It is related to the architect plans and fire safety systems, life safety plans, and talking about the comments one by one. giving you the comments could be in a general stage applicable for all the project and specifically for each discipline of the submission. And here is the submission for the MOI website for the civil defense, and this is a screenshot from the application, how it will be indicated. And you can see it is coming here from different stages: property data for the property itself, the building, the land, the owner data, applicant data. Applicant data should be the QCDD certified engineer, a project data, and others, and attachment. For each one, like the property data, it will require the PIN number for the plots, the municipality, the location, street name, real estate number if it is applicable, the land number if it is applicable, and the title number and the area space. The owner data, either it is a personal or company or government. For each one, you have to indicate that if it is a personal, for example, the ID number, the name in Arabic, and the mobile number and the type of the person, the owner. Government companies, commercial trade license, company name, mobile number for the contact person, and the government, the record for the government, the name in Arabic, and the mobile number for the applicant person. So this is the owner's data. Applicant data, it will be the applicant for the QCDD certified engineer, providing the Qatar ID, mobile name in Arabic, mobile number, and the PO box for the company where he is working for. And this one, it's very important for the applicant data. As we'll see, for the process of submission, QCDD certified engineer have to review and endorse all the submittals and confirming that, and signing all the drawing, confirming that all the requirements, all the QCDD regulation has been fulfilled within the design and the construction, and it is reflected on the drawing. So it is very important responsibility and the task for the certified engineer. It's not an easy task. He has to be very well aware about the QCDD requirements, and it is a responsibility. If there is any problem for the civil defense, the first one will be catched and will be reported the QCDD certified engineer who signed the drawing and endorsed the submission. Okay. A project data. Details for the project itself, if it is governmental project, the project name, and the required data, the required work, required to review, architect, civil, infrastructure, MEP, etc. Whatever the system is required to review. Why it is like that? Because sometimes you are submitting only for the modification related to the revised DC1 for the architect only, or revised DC1 for the firefighting only, etc. So we have to indicate here what is the type of work is required for review. A straightforward filling data and sheets. Other details for the project. For example, for the real estate building use, description for the building, the building type, how many buildings, construction specification. Okay, giving a calendar, dates for the construction stage. And the most important stage for this one, which will be the construction specification. Filling on the application all the data related to the building itself floor-wise. Okay. Starting from the basement, basement type, what is the area square meter and the usage, ground, area and use, mezzanine, service floor if applicable, first, second, repeated, typical, and the total built up area and the construction height, etc. So filling all the details for the construction of the building. Once you complete it, you will go for the attachment, attaching all the drawings required, and it has to be in AutoCAD format. We'll see the formats for the application, how it will be considered, and how to prepare it, and what level of details we have to prepare and to submit. And putting the attachment for all discipline, starting from the architect to all the applications, letters, undertaking letters, PIN numbers, okay, policy plans, architectural plans, and the MEP services as well. So this will be the formats. You can upload it on the system, and it has to be uploaded one time. You cannot start the application and stopping and restarting again, etc. So this will be the straightforward process for uploading for the QCD. The same process, it will be repeated for DC1 or DC2 or requesting for the inspection. It has to be the same process. Okay. Cases where you have modification after DC1 and DC2 approval, or during the inspection or before the inspection. Many cases we found it, once you have the DC1 stage and the DC2 going for inspection, the client requirements and requested some modification due to changing or updating the design, the requirements, the developing for the project, etc. During the construction stage for the site condition or modification or variation order, it's many modification, it will happen within the design. The modification, it could be a simple one or it could be a major. Simple if it is not modifying the civil defense and the civil defense and the escape routing for the building, not changing completely the architect layout plans or the structure. This will be a simple one. The major one, if it is a big change for the architect and the project access for the buildings, the escape routing, the entrance, this will be the major modifications. Once you have an approval, the only official documents the QCDs have it in hand is the approved drawing, and if you make any modification, you have to revise it so you can allow the civil defense when they are coming for the inspection to inspect against updated drawing for matching with the as-built what you have. So in this case, you have to go either, depending on the situation of the project, either to go for the revised DC1 or revised DC2, or if it is a sample, you can go and merging the modification when you are submitting for the inspection and requesting the final stage. Going for the modification, the process for the submission, it might affecting only architect or fire alarm system or firefighting or both of them or electrical, etc. Whatever the modification it is coming. Electrical, I mean the emergency lighting system, which will be part as well from the civil defense submission. So you have to revisit and submit again for DC1. In this case, you don't need to submit the full project as a package. You need only to submit the affected drawings, highlighting the modification, justifying the reason for the modification. If it is two different or three different reasons for the modification, you have to give a code for each one. Modification type 1, type 2, type 3, and give a description why you are modifying. And whatever area is not affected, you have to hatch the area. So the only area not hatched within the drawing, it has to be indicated the modified area. And the same process, you have to sign all the drawings and submit and upgrade the revision of the drawings. Revision number 1, revision number 2, 3, etc. Examples for the modification, Changing of the building occupants. Changing the building occupants, this one it is considered as a major modification because based on the occupants of the building and the activities within the building, the life safety system, it will be changed, and the requirements for the sprinkler coverage, for the fire alarm, for the emergency lighting distribution, the escape routing, and the calculation of the egress sizing and the area, it will be completely changed depending on the occupants of the building. So this one is considered as a major modification if the modification is reaching 50% of the total GFA of the building. And in this case, you have to start from the beginning and go for the submission for complete DC1 modification. Simple modifications, adding a sprinkler or adding a detector, replacing existing fire alarm system with a new system, replacing the sprinkler with a clean agent suppression system. This could be a stage of DC2 stage. So in this case, you have to open the file again and uploading the documents. Only the affected documents, it will be required. And even in some cases, the civil defense, they accept this kind of modification, like adding a sprinkler or adding smoke detectors or some modification. They might accept it to be reflected on the as-built drawing when you are submitting for the inspection. It depends on the size of modification where it is. Okay. For the existing building, adding or omitting any of the devices, it will be required submission for the DC2. Whatever life safety systems is modified, no one is allowed to modify it unless he has a permission from civil defense. Civil defense could be submitted as DC2, or there is another process for the submission, like for the maintenance requirements and the operational requirements. The same process for the approval. This one, it is giving the graph how it is stages. Submitting for the approval, contractor also can amend the drawing and modify it. Okay. And this one, it is showing the modification process. If you have any modification after getting approval of DC1 or DC2, depending on the size of the modification, either to submit revised DC1 modification or revised DC2 modification, and later going for the QCD inspection till you have the completion certificates for the buildings. After getting DC1 and DC2, you can, so you have the approved reference drawing for the QCD, going for construction, complete your buildings, updating your as-built. You can submit for the inspection for the QCD and get in order to get the approvals. And the submission for the QCD, it will include everything related to the civil defense. If we are talking about the firefighting and HVAC, smoke management, you have to submit all the layout plans, all the calculations required for the sizing of the pump, hydraulic calculations required for the pump, it needs to be submitted. Material submittal for all the material submittal for all the life safety systems for the firefighting, starting from the sprinklers, all the elbows, pipes, valves, gate valve, check valve, PRV or landing valve, etc. Till you reach the fire pump itself, all the materials, it has to be submitted as material submittal with the catalogs indicating all the selected part number, equipment, device with the part number. Not only for this one, for each device, you have to submit a copy of the QCDD certificate for each device is required for the submission as well. So having this one as well to submit and attach it for your submittal. Qatar Civil Defense Department, they will review the submittal completely with all the documents and either to giving you an approval for the inspection, or they will ask you to modify the construction site before going for the inspection. So either they will give you a modification for the systems on the drawings, or giving you a appointment identifying the inspection dates and visit from the QCD officers. And during the inspection, have to prepare a complete set of the drawing for the layout plans and all the systems. And we will talk about it. Either for the life safety, it's one task. But if we are talking about our firefighting and smoke management, all the layout plans, the schematic diagrams, the riser, copy of all the calculation and the sizing calculation, copy of all the material submittal with the certificates, sample for all the devices, whatever could be provided within the sample room. In addition, for title, putting a title and room number for each room, and it should be matching with the mimic panel, which will be provided in the fire command centers. They are going to check it, all of this one. During even the inspections, they will go as the tour within the building, and they will check where it is indicating the assembly point, where is the exits and the exit signs, location for the emergency lighting, location for the fire extinguishers. If you have a check valve above full ceiling, you should have an access panel or hatch panel within the full ceiling, and it should be indicated with a label indicating this is a checking valve or land or access for the zone valve, etc. Whatever the fire extinguishers, it should have a title and the directional and the text showing the fire extinguishers, and it should be accessible. Checking all the accessibility within the building and the escape routing. It is free from any obstruction of furniture or equipment, etc. The same when like what we talk about it within the NFPA 101 section when we talk about the egress routing. So they are going to check it, all of these documents, and after that will give you either approval for the building or they will receive a comments. 90% of the buildings they are receiving a comments from the first visit of the civil defense. Could be the comments is major or minor. It depends on the observation from the civil defense. And also one point you have to take note, for the submit for the civil defense inspection, you have to prepare copy of all testing and commissioning and site test reports for all the life safety devices. All systems you have to provide a testing report, copy of this one, and they definitely certified by a certified QCDD engineer. Once you have the comments from the visit, either you have to comply and submit again for the civil defense. In the same way of the application, you will have an open file for the application, so you can reply for the comments one by one and upload all the supporting documents, a modification, photos, site photos, or drawings, depending on the comments itself. Having this one submitted for the civil defense, they will come for you, review the documents, and they will come for you either with additional comments or rejecting your response. They ask for other modification and the supporting documents, or they will come for inspection or giving you an approval for the building and they certify the building from QCD, and you can apply for the building completion certificates. So this is the stages how the QCDD submittals is going. For the completion certificates, after you successfully have the QCD inspection, you can submit all the building certificates and getting the certificates from the municipality. Okay. We talk about the changes, the small modification and the modification for DC1 and the DC2. Okay. During the operational for the building, it might be required some modification, upgrading the system, changing one of the system, etc. You can go for maintenance and demolishing modification. From this one, it will be a simple application. It will require only the main data for the building, property data, the owner data, and the attachment, etc. And you have to identify the reason for the modification, why it is modified. And definitely you have to upload within the attachment all the attached documents and the drawings, data sheets, materials, etc. for whatever materials or system you would like to modify. Okay. And this is a flow chart for the maintenance permit request process, how it has to be sequentially applied. Okay. I think this is all the details we would like to say about the QCDD submissions. Do you have any questions, gentlemen?
Sir, regarding this schematic diagram.
Okay.
Schematic diagram for riser. Shall we get any sample drawings or anything, sir?
I'm expecting you to give me the sample scintillanting.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have, but
Okay.
but I am unable to proceed. That is correct or not? I don't know. So
Okay.
I need your support for this schematic.
Okay. Before we go for this one, because I know it is confusing a little bit, and if you are not making before, you cannot start yourself straightforward for this one. Before we go for the schematic diagram, let us go for the next chapter, which is talking about the level of details and the information we have to present it for all the submittals for QCD, which will include the schematic diagrams, and it will tell you exactly what you have to show information on the schematic diagrams. Not only the schematic diagrams, even starting from the site layout plan till you reach the distribution, floor distribution, and all the submittal contents.
Okay.
So if you don't have questions for this chapter, can we go for the next one?
Okay, sir. We shall go next chapters. No issue.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Here it is. This is the guidelines for QCDD for the firefighting plans submission. For you, you have to submit, as a mechanical part, you have to submit 2 sets of drawings. First one related to the firefighting, second one related to the smoke management, which we call it air conditioned mechanical ventilation system, ACMV. So 2 kinds of submission or 2 sets of submissions will be required. Let us go one by one for the major part of the firefighting system. Okay. This is a tabulated format for the submission, which is showing here item number, description, and if it is yes, provided, or no, or not applicable. And this one, why it is yes, no, not applicable, depending on the submission, which submission and which stage of the submission you are providing. Is it DC1 or DC2 or modification or maintenance submission? What kind of submission you are making? So you don't need to submit everything every time, just the required set. Okay. Starting from general requirements, drawing to be submitted through MOI online permit system, and must be in AutoCAD format. So even you have a model, BIM model or Revit, you have to extract it and submit it for AutoCAD format. The drawing, it has to be purged and bonded. What does it mean, purge and bonded? Purge, it's a command, and bond as well is a command within the AutoCAD. The draftsman will be more familiar about this one. The purge command within the AutoCAD, it is allowing to delete and remove all unused line type, layers, symbols, fonts, etc. Whatever not used within the drawings, it will be omitted and eliminated from the AutoCAD file, which will make the CAD file size less size. So this is a purge command. Bonded, within the AutoCAD, you might have a linking the layout plan for the firefighting superimposed with the emergency lighting, superimposed with the structure for coordination, superimposed with the architect for coordination, etc. So making this kind of superimpose, you make it with the command xref. So if you are going to submit, you have to break the link of this xref and compile all the reference layers from the other drawing to be combined and bonded within the drawing itself. That's why you have to make it bonded and removing all the link for any external link within the file. Okay. And it has to be this one, it has to be corresponding for the model space and the paper space, which will allow the civil defense for review. The drawing, it should follow the standard format for the title block. So what is the standard format for the title block? This is another detail. We will go for it. We will see what is the standard details and the requirements for the title block. All the drawings, calculation, related design report shall be signed and endorsed by designated consultant engineer, attested by the engineering company to where he or she is employed. So it has to be certified, endorsed, signed by the consultant engineer. The consultant shall certify on every drawing and layout that it is fulfilling the life safety plan submission is designed according to the provision of the NFPA 10, 13, 14, 20, 22, all the related sections of the submission. The section 170, it is talking about the samples within the NFPA. What are the samples and the graphic samples to be used? Section 5000, it is related to the NFPA for the building during construction stage. So in this one, it has to be considered within the submission to endorse that it is required and it is endorsed and it is applicable as well within the design drawing. And all other applicable standards for the civil defense and the QCDD and the NFPA standards. Declaring that the equipment and all devices to be used for the firefighting shall be listed for such purpose and approved type by QCDD. So be careful, because this one, it's an official document and it is serious. You cannot endorse and declare this equipment. It is as per the QCDD approvals and device meeting with the QCDD requirements and regulation unless you have a certification for the devices. So you have to be very careful for this one. So as you are certified QCDD engineer, you will have the authority, you will have the power, but you will be responsible for the submittal and endorsing, declaring the documentation, and it will be a responsibility on your shoulders. So please be careful when you are going to check and design the drawings. That's why you can see here in the country there is many offices. They are only working for the submission for the authorities. They have very limited design staff or supervision staff as an engineering services, but they are very professional for the submission and reviewing the drawing for the submission of the authorities. One of them is the QCDD or Kahrama, etc., and the municipality. And these guys, they are dedicated and very experienced for the methodology of the submission, how to present it on the drawing, how to show the documentation, etc. Because it's a liability for the companies. So this is the general comments, what we have to fulfill within all the drawings and all the calculations in general. Let us go for the information related for the project itself. Plans and the documents to be submitted. Layout plans and the documents. Detailed design report. As a design report, a narrative report that provide the following where it is applicable. So you have to submit design report describing the building, the area of use, the use of the occupancy for each space, for the passive and the active fire protection system, design criteria and objectives, automatic fire sprinkler or standby pipe or extinguisher systems, narrative and the brief for this report. So this is a design report. It's a part from the submission for the DC1 and DC2. The cover or front page, and you have to fulfill the sequence of the submission. When you are sorting the drawing and preparing your submission, you will make it like a book, and you have to follow the same sequence like exactly how they are presenting. So the cover sheet, followed by floor plans, elevation, sectional drawing, miscellaneous details, riser diagram, calculation, etc. You have to follow the same sequence like this, like exactly how it is sorted. Policy plan, which is indicating the location, the PIN number, the address for the building, QRS, Urban Planning or Development Authority, UPDA, latest and updated registration of the consultant and the engineer consultant company. It has to be indicated as part of the submission as well, copy of this one. These documents, the guidelines for the submission to serve a review checklist. Taking this one for the submission as a checklist for you. That's why you see here the columns, it is showing yes, no, not applicable. So taking this one as a checklist, tick. Fire safety provision shall be in accordance with the minimum requirements as prescribed by NFPA standards and the QCDD general requirements. Provision in excess the minimum requirements shall be confirmed by the design consultant with a letter from the owner or a client. What does it mean? This one, it is saying for the minimum requirement of the QCDD, like let us take an example for the location of the hose reel. The location of the hose reel, what is? Do you remember what is the length of the hose, the reel itself? How long it is?
30 meters.
30 meters. So the distance between the two hose reels, how long it should be?
60, 30, 30, 60.
It is from 64 to 68 meters because you have a projection and the length for the spreading water as well. So it is maximum between 64 to 68 meter of the running routing from the sprinklers.
Okay.
If the consultant, for XY reason, he decided to go for a distance, covering distance between the hose reels, instead of 60, he make it 50 or 45 meter length. For decoration, for embedments, for XY reason, it could be provided. So the minimum requirements for the civil defense, it has to be 60 meter. If you are providing additional requirements than what is the civil defense they are making, it has to be endorsed by the consultant, confirmed by the consultant itself, with a clarification letter. Not only this one, it has to be endorsed as well and confirmed by the client and the owner, because it has a commercial implication. So it has to be confirmed by the client that it is required for the purpose 1, 2, 3, and the client is aware about this implication, aware about this additional and the excess of the requirements, and he accepted himself. Okay. Another examples for the sizing of the fire tank, etc. Many things you have, whatever exceeding the civil defense requirements, it has to be clarified in the same ways. So this is the layout plans. Still, we are talking about the documents, whatever documents to be submitted. So you can see the sequence of the this checklist. It is talking first from the overall outside as a general requirements, going in details, list all the documents what it has to be submitted, followed by the standard details to be shown for the title block. So the details of the title block, which we talk about it here, number B, the standard format of the title block, what I have to show on the title block. Title block for the drawing, which is called the frame. It has to be proper endorsed, drawing the title, a space for QCDD stamp. Now they are providing electronic stamp. Before it was submitted by stamped physically. Now they are providing electronic stamp. List applicable codes used in the design of the project shall be indicated with a complete edition and the date. Okay, put it on the title block. Logo and the stamp of the consultant and the contractor, complete with address, and the contact information should be properly placed. The owner name and the other details, address, contact numbers, etc., shall be indicated. So it has a special arrangement for the title block, and it will be standard title block. Complete address of the project and the PIN number, area, plot, street has to be clearly provided. Indicate correct plan scale, scale 1 to 100, 1 to 200, etc. on each drawing and the page. Complete name of the engineer should be clearly shown. This is it will be your good self, showing your name, your details, whoever is going to certify and endorse and declare the drawings, complete name, the ID number, registration number, expiry date of the card itself, it has to be indicated and provided. If there is multiple revisions of the drawing, it has to be historically indicated. Revision 0 for DC1 submission, revision 1 for DC2, revision 2 for modification of DC2, or revision 3 for inspection or as-built, and so on. Sheet number and the content title must be consistent with the drawing index. So this is a standard for the title block. Second one is the cover sheet. You still remember the sequence we have it? cover sheet and the layout plan and the sectional elevation and the miscellaneous details and the risers. This is the sequence of submission. The cover sheet or the front sheet, drawing index with correspondence paper size and the scales to be provided clearly within each page of the drawing. Area statement of every floor, level, room, area, and other occupancy. A paragraph where you are describing the building, which floor levels. The same like we make it for the QCDD application, level-wise, the area for each level, and what is the main activities within the area. Parking level, or main entrance, or lobby, or typical floors, or room levels, or a kitchen, or restaurants, etc. Okay. Description for the project, which indicating the intents and the purposes of the submission, if it is for submission for DC1 or submission for DC2 or submission for QCDD approvals, building classification, construction type, giving a briefing about the building itself and the type of the construction, occupant, hazard classification, the process operational conducted in the building or structure. Okay. The scope of work is summarize the design intent based on the design report. A brief of the design as we make it in the design, detailed design report, making a brief here for the scope of work. For the scope of work, the sprinkler system, the sizing of the tank size and the fire pumps and the pump size. It has how many standards, how many landing valves, how many hose reels, etc. Making a design parameter and the criteria with a complete description of the system, declared and supported with the engineering consultant. For example, the design parameter for the automatic fires sprinkler, standpipes systems, FM 200 systems, etc. For industrial occupants, a brief description for the manufacturing process. If it is manufacturing process for the industrial application, workshop, or a factory, describing the manufacturing process, because the manufacturing process, it will definitely identify what will be the hazardous classification and the protection systems required. Making the process, if it is spraying, metal cutting, dipping, etc. A narrative about the process, a flow, of the material, the material intake, process area, going for the storage, the process sequence, how it will be showing on the assembly lines and the production area, and after that going for the storage or going for the loading area. If you have any special machines or equipment like oven, boiler, radiant coils, conveyors, etc., it has to be shown on the as a description within the building process itself and the occupancy. Still, we are in the cover sheet. You have to show the design criteria for each type of occupancy for the building, including the following but not limited to: type of occupancy, hazard classification, commodity classifications, the area of operation, design density, area per sprinkler coverage, sprinkler K factors, type of sprinkler used, maximum and minimum sprinkler spacing, making the design criteria as a brief from the design report you have submitted in the beginning. The maximum distance between the sprinklers, maximum ceiling temperature, how much, sprinkler temperature rating, inside and outside hose stream allowance, minimum duration for the operational, standardized classifications, okay? Plus, the consultant mechanical engineer must check the appropriate declaration and the submitted hydraulic calculation. And we'll talk about the hydraulic calculation later on. Still, we are in the cover sheet. So you can see how many information and for which level of details this criteria is giving you exactly the details required for each sheet. Equipment schedule for the main equipment, it has to be shown. For the fire pump, fire extinguisher equipment schedule, if it is A, B, C, K, D, the capacity, the type, etc. The water tank equipment schedule, including the area and the volume of the water tank, the effective height, the overall volume and the capacity, duration, enough for how long duration, construction type, if it is a concrete or steel, putting a general note, which is applicable for the project, provide only the applicable legend and the sample applicable for the building, applicable for the project. Don't use any other samples which is not applicable. And I'm advising you to visit NFPA 170. Download it even from the internet. It's a very, very useful chapter. We did not talk about this one because it's mainly for the graphical samples, how the graphical samples could be utilized. And it is giving you the standard sample and the graphics for every single elements within the civil defense requirements. For the door type, for the sprinkler type, for the pendant type, upright or wall or side wall, for the fire pump, how it should be, for the exit signs, how it should be, for the fire hydrant, how it should be, for the valve, if it is motorized, for the dampers, for manual or for automatic dampers, etc. It is giving graphical samples and legend for all the graphics you might need it for the civil defense. Okay. It's very straightforward, like graphical sample and legend. Okay. If you cannot download it, just remind me, I can share it with you. But most of the people, they are downloading from the internet. It's free to download. Any version of the NFPA, not necessary to be 2018, the latest one. I think the graphical sample, this chapter 170, it is not changed from 2018 or 16 or 12, it will be the same. So any version of this one, it will be useful for you. Okay. Briefing about the material specification. If you are in the design stage, you will brief about the material specification as a design from the design point of view. If you are submitting for the inspection on the as-built, here you cannot put a brief description for the material, but you have to put detailed description for the actual material you have used it, with the model number, with the type, with the manufacturer as well. Specify all the firefighting pipes, diameters. Okay. Indicate the general notes, the piping, which will be dry or wet for the firefighting system, whatever it is applicable, as per the NFPA 13. Provide declaration on the plan. The flexible connection shall be installed on the building where we have seismic or expansion joints and shall be compliant with the Chapter 9 NFPA 13 edition or the latest edition of NFPA. Provide declaration that contractor, consultant shall coordinate with the other trades prior installation. Any conflict, obstruction shall be resolved or provided by additional changes, sprinkler if necessary, or other fighting safety equipment where it is applicable. So this one, it will be one of the notes where you have to put it on the drawings itself. we finished all the requirements for the cover sheet. Going for the site plan. So we go next page, which is the site plan. What you have to show for the site plan? The means of access to the site. Do you remember the means of the access to the site? Do you remember the first class where we talk about the QCDD and the access for the site? What will be the width and the height of the access? Four and a half meter, 4 meter width, and 4.5 meter in height. The perimeter of the building, the location of the hard stand for the firefighting vehicles, must show the location of the breaching inlet, the fire engine access and the hard standing, location of the fire pump room and the fire tank outline, breaching inlet and other fire safety feature of the building as per the QCDD standards. So this one showing the items related for the firefighting system. For multi-buildings, if you are applying for multi-buildings served by a single water tank, you have to show the site plan with the fire water pipe network, including the interfacing for each building and the location of the fire pump. For the standalone building, declaration on the location of the fire pump and water tank source. And the access grid for XY to be shown on the layout